Assalamu alaikum students. How are you all?
Fine, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, Abdullah, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine.
Well, in today's class, basically you have received two recorded lectures about interpersonal skills and the other topic which is also related to the interpersonal skills is active listening. So you received two recorded lectures, one about interpersonal skills and other about active listening. Well, in today's class, we will discuss these two topics. In case if you have any query, any question, you can ask. Oh, well, yes. Did you watch the lectures? Yes, Shahwar.
No, ma'am, till now I haven't watched.
Didn't you watch the lecture?
No, ma'am.
And
I'll
what
watch
about?
it today, ma'am.
Okay, you have given the quizzes without watching the lecture.
Yes, ma'am.
You need to manage the time because in this way you will lose your grades if you continuously submitting your quizzes without solving your quizzes and then submitting without watching the lectures.
No, ma'am, we have three assignments already pending, and that's why we don't get enough time to watch
You
them.
need to manage. You need to manage the time because as I'm uploading lectures on Tuesday, so you can watch the one lecture on Tuesday according to the schedule time, and after that, the next lecture can be watched during in the on Thursday. All right. Well, okay, we can discuss the topic.
मिस
Any
वो
idea?
डाउनलोड की ऑप्शन दे दें लेक्चर पे तो फिर ज्यादा सही रहेगा सुनने में।
Okay, fine. You can send me reminder text after this lecture. I'll open the downloading
जी
option for you. Right?
जी मिस जी।
Well, yes. What do you know about the interpersonal skills?
Ma'am, interpersonal skills are the skills that are used to make your communication effective.
Okay, fine. Although interpersonal skills are used to make the communication effective, plus it also has certain other, uh, you can say it also contains certain other characteristics and points. Yes, Abdullah, what is your point of view about interpersonal skills?
मींस skills to communicate with other people effectively.
Yes, basically, when we talk about the interpersonal skills, uh, interpersonal skills are basically all those skills. This is not the only one skill. It basically an umbrella term which contains the multiple skills, right? So it is basically a term which contains all those skills which you require for building relationships with other persons and for maintaining those relationships with other persons, right? So how you build relationships with other persons? Definitely you start from greetings. After that you start communication. So your communication skills also come under the category of interpersonal skills because you communicate with other persons, you live in the society, you talk to other persons to fulfill your requirements, your needs, and you continuously maintain those relationships through communication, right? So first and foremost important skill under the interpersonal skills is your communication skill. And communication skills include your verbal, your non-verbal skills, and your uh, you can simply say how do you behave with the other persons. Communication skills also include your active listening skill because in the process of communication you won't be able to respond to other person unless until you listen to other person actively, right? So there are also other interpersonal skills which are basically your problem solving skill, your emotional intelligence, your decision making skill, your personal stress management skill, and your leadership skills. your empathy. So when you show courtesy in your behavior, when you ignore the mistakes of other persons, when you encourage other persons, when you initiate the greeting while meeting to other person, even giving smile to other person, all these basically come under the category of interpersonal skills. So is it clear to all of you that what are interpersonal skills?
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you know about assertiveness?
Ma'am, the term assertiveness and the term determination made me confused during the quiz. Can you please explain it?
Okay, assertiveness basically, when we talk about interpersonal skills, it includes communication skills. It also includes your assertiveness, right? So, assertiveness basically means raising your voice for your rights,
Okay, ma'am.
standing up for your personal rights in expressing your thoughts, your feelings, and beliefs. Usually, people get confused. They think that if a person is blunt, he can speak in front of everyone and he is considered assertive. That person is not assertive. The person who adopt appropriate way of raising his her voice is called that the person has assertiveness. Can you differentiate between the confident and overconfident? Yes, Abdullah and Shawar, one by one. Can you differentiate between confident and overconfident?
Ma'am,
मिस ये काम
confidence
मैं कर
means
सकता हूँ, ये होता है कि कॉन्फिडेंस, और ये काम मैं आपसे बेहतर कर सकता हूँ, ये ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस.
Hmm. Okay. Yes, other student.
confidence means you are sure that you can do that work, and overconfidence means that you are just thinking that only you can do it.
Okay. And although your points are valid, but basically, I wanted to explain assertiveness through this point of view. Basically, the person, usually it is considered the person who is confident. One is that the confident about the skills and abilities. Another point is that when you talk to other person, whether you have the confidence of talking to someone or not, right? So some people think that basically the person who talk to other person within the manners, within the limits, right? And he or she, as Abdullah stated, when a person says that he can do it, it means he has the confidence, right? When he says that I can do better than you, right? So it means that the person is going to be overconfident. So when you talk to other person within the manners, within the limits, you are confident. But you violate the certain rules, certain limits, you are basically trying to be overconfident, right? It can be explained in different aspects. So when we talk about assertiveness, it basically means when you are working at somewhere, right? So you are assertive when you will be able to raise your voice for your rights. But it doesn't mean you are going in the office of the boss and you are throwing in front of him or her something that this is not right, this is wrong. So this is basically a wrong way of communicating with other persons. Your assertiveness basically means following the proper channel, the appropriate way. Selection of channel must be appropriate, choice of words must be appropriate. At the same time, the context, the occasion, the situation must be appropriate. And then finally, the receiver, the person with whom you are talking, must be appropriate, right? So the person who has the capacity and who can raise the voice for the rights, following the proper channel, is basically called that the person has the assertiveness. And what usually happens, people misunderstand assertiveness as aggressiveness. And sometimes people think that you need to be passive, right? You can even take the example of the classroom. A person who has an issue in the quiz, right? And he got less marks, as much less marks as her on the as compared to his her performance, right? Then he can come to the teacher, he can request to the teacher in a polite way that there are certain mistakes in my paper. Can you please could you ma'am please elaborate these points that way, that how can I further I improve, right? So here you are basically talking politely and giving your quiz to teacher that can please explain me that how can I further elaborate or how can I further improve my my these concepts. So then teacher can review your quiz and can inform you that there are problem in the counting, or it can be any other situation, it can be any other reason. But if the person is coming and directly talking to the teacher that you did wrong with me, so this is basically aggressiveness. It means you don't have manners. You have the right to raise your voice, but you need to think about the language. You need to think about the appropriate use of words. You need to think about the tone at the same time, occasion, and the context, right? So, this is basically the difference between aggressiveness and passive assertiveness. So, what about the passive? And the student who performed very well, but due to certain issues, it can be the mistake in the checking, whatever, he got less marks. But he's decided that I want request the teacher to evaluate my quiz. He decided to be passive, right? So this is basically called being passive. I gave you the example of the classroom. So this behavior is usually considered at the workplace, right? So when you are passive means something is going wrong with you, but you are thinking that if you will remain quiet and keep and silent, and then you will get good reward. But no, in professional life you need to raise your voice, but through appropriate channel. So many people basically adopt a passive response because they have a strong need to be liked by others. Yeah, here I'm
Ye-
talking about from the context of the workplace, right?
जी
So
मिस ऐसे ही
being
करते हैं
passive,
बच्चे
yes, being passive results in failure of communication. It means you don't have the communication skills to talk to other person, right? So being passive basically allows others to take responsibility and to lead and make decisions for them. You are working at somewhere, you are not raising your voice, you're not projecting what you are doing, right? So no one other knows about you. So it basically brings inferior feelings, and all those who don't have the good communication skills, they basically go for it. So being passive is not recommended. And people usually try people think that they are trying to be assertive, but what happens, they become aggressive. You need to make the difference between aggressive and assertive. Aggressiveness basically means being harsh, being rude, disrespecting other person. Even a slight change in tone can show the disrespect. You are already very well clear about the non-verbal communication. All right. So you need to be assertive, not aggressive, not passive. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am, is clear.
So what
जी
is
मिस
aggressiveness?
Being rude, being angry, and
Yes, but assertiveness.
being
मिस
polite
के
and
बोलना लेकिन एक अच्छे अंदाज में अपने मामलात को एक अच्छे अंदाज में बयान करना दूसरे की भी सुनना और अपनी भी सुनानी
Yes, good. And for this purpose, basically, you have been taught uh, seven C's, the appropriate choice of words, bringing courtesy into your message, bringing consideration into your message, even giving the negative message in an appropriate way. You need to use you attitude, but if the situation is negative, then go for activization, go for passivization if there is need. So omit the you attitude when you feel that this can directly affect the feelings of other person, even though you think that the other person is wrong, but you should not blame directly. This is basically the purpose of uh, principles of effective communication, and in this way you can win, you can get whatever you want. So well, the other important point in interpersonal skills, basically you need interpersonal skills for building relationship within the organization, with the suppliers, with the competitors. Usually when you in other sense, you can simply say the person who is social is called that he or she has interpersonal skills. Did you observe any student in the class who is popular among the other students? Did you observe?
Yes, ma'am.
So why he or she is popular among the other students and he or she has good relationships with other fellows and other teachers?
And because he talks with teacher with manners, in manners,
Hmm.
and just he's like good to others and he speaks well with others. That's why he's popular.
Yes.
Because he have good manners. He's well mannered,
Yes.
basically.
Uh, well mannered plus good communication skills. And he knows how to speak, when to speak, and where to speak. So it means we can say the person has interpersonal skills. So, and these type of people in the professional world, basically these type of people can become successful. The passive people, the aggressive people, the person who lacks the interpersonal skills cannot be productive, cannot build relationships with other persons, and they cannot be successful. Because through interpersonal skills, you can make your working environment very good. You can gain success, you can get likeness by the other persons, and similarly, you gain the leadership skills because you have good communication skills. You can talk to other persons, you can manage the things, you can perform the role of mediator. Then you can get the leadership skills, you can be the leader. Here are certain points which I uh, given here and explained in the recorded lecture, that you can how can you improve your interpersonal skills. These are some tips. Basic points are very clear to all of you, that you need to improve your communication skills. You must be pretty clear that when to talk, what to talk, and how to talk. Apply the 7 C's in your communication while talking to other persons. While giving smile to everyone is basically one of the important tip through which you can improve and build your relationships with other person. This is basically the first step when you are interacting with other persons, and after that it comes to greetings, and then the next step is the conversation and communication, and after that you continuously maintain those communication with other persons. Yes, is this clear?
जी मिस। मिस वो comprehensive listening क्या होती है?
After this we will move towards the listening skills, right? So I think so. All these points are pretty clear to all of you. Now will move toward the listening skills. Courtesy, bridging gaps. Is it clear that how to bridge gaps among the people? Yes, students.
थोड़ा थोड़ा पता है मिस।
Bridging gaps, better when there is clash among the person and you perform the role of mediator. You listen to both the persons and you try to bridge the gap. You try to build the relationships with them rather than increasing their you can say conflict,
जी मिस।
rather than being biased or going for favoritism. You try to be neutral with both of the person. You try to listen to the both of the person, and then uh, performing the role of mediator and building good relationships with the two person. You can even start from your class. If you observe that there is misunderstanding among two fellows, you can perform the role of mediator. You can bridge the gaps. You can bridge the gaps among the people within your family, among the friends, even among the fellows within the classroom, right? Next is resolving conflicts. Similarly, if there is quarrel, if there is biasness among people, um, the people who have good interpersonal skills, they basically try to resolve the conflicts rather than increasing the conflicts, right? Empathy. Is it clear to all of you? You have already given presentation in the class.
जी मिस।
What is empathy?
किसी के जगह पे खड़े होकर उसके हालात का अंदाजा करना, उसके इमोशंस को देखना, उसके डिसीजन
Hmm.
मेकिंग,
Yes,
उसके
understanding. Yes.
स्टैंड इन शूज, एंड देन
Hmm.
what he is seeing and what is he thinking and what is he feeling about the situation.
Yes. So empathy means putting yourself at the place of other person and understanding the feelings and emotions of other persons. Right. Stop complaining. This is very important point. The person who is continuously complaining, it means he or she lacks the interpersonal skills. It means he or she has no communication skill and they cannot resolve their conflicts. That's why they are complaining in front of other persons. Right? So it was all about interpersonal skills. Now let's talk about the active listening. So what do you think? What is the importance of is listening?
इस कभी कभार कम सुनने की वजह से भी लड़ाइयाँ हो जाती हैं। मतलब कि कभी कभार अगर अगले वाला अपना पॉइंट पूरा एक्सप्लेन कर नहीं पाता और यहाँ पे बात बढ़ जाती है, इसलिए हमने अगले की बात पूरी सुननी चाहिए।
Yes, because misunderstanding arise due to lack of listening, lack of concentration. If you are not listening thoroughly, because the people start the point of view and you interrupt within the communication, and you don't let other person to complete the sentence, to complete the talk. Basically, when we talk about the communication skills, so listening skills is the most ignored skills in the world. And research has proved that people usually ignore this skill because they prepare themselves to talk to other person rather than listening to other person. More than 50% problems can be resolved if we start listening to other person. And along with this, empathy. Because if we put ourselves at the place of other person and then we start listening, that if we were at the place of that person and we were speaking and the audience were ignoring us, then how would we feel, right? So tell me something, the very important fact about listening. And do you know about it that the speaking capacity of one person within 1 minute is 125 words. It's an average, right? Some people speak slowly and some people speak fluently. So the average limit of speaking per minute words is 125 words. But when it comes to the capacity, our mental capacity, we basically have the mental capacity to listen, to observe 400 to 500 words per minute. Are you listening?
जी
Yes,
मिस।
ma'am.
So, our speaking capacity, what is our speaking capacity within 1 minute?
125 words
125
per
words.
minute average।
Yes. And our understanding capacity.
400 to
400 to
500 words.
500 per
Yes.
minute।
So there is huge difference between our speaking and our understanding. So what happens during the communication? For instance, I am talking to you person, I am explaining to you people. But if I'm uttering around 125 words in a minute, but you have the capacity to observe 400 to 500 words, so it means you will utilize only 25% of your mental capacity to listen my lecture. At the same time, your attention can be diverted, can be here and there. Even you can listen to the teacher while thinking something other, right? Even you can listen while typing a message. Am I right?
जी मिस.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you can perform other tasks while listening. Then what happens? It means the 70% of our mental capacity is still free. When we are listening to other person, we are just giving 25%. What about 75%? 75% will start thinking about the other planning. Okay, we have another quiz. Okay, we have another class. Okay, when the teacher will stop the lecture, I'll go for eating, right? So we usually continuously plan in our mind that what will we do, or you continuously think something other. Does it happen?
Yes, ma'am, it happens.
Right.
Mostly.
So in this way, then what happened, because maximum part of your mental capacity is doing something other, right? 75% is doing something other, only 25% is trying to listen, focus is on listening. Then what happens, definitely the more focus will be on other point than on the listening. And in this way, it is basically the research has proved it, right? So what are the solutions? Solutions are these: you need to continuously think what you are basically listening and avoid the other things, right? I also have uploaded the handouts about this topic, in which the complete detail is given. For the preparation of final exam and further quizzes, you need to go through those handouts, because in this way you will be able to comprehend all the uh, points very well. So rehearsing, this point is very important, because what happened during listening, what we do when we are listening to other person, we basically stop understanding. What we do, we plan ourselves for responding to that person. We start thinking, okay, I'll speak this point. So your mind is busy in thinking, in planning, and in making structure of the sentence which you want to utter, but at the same time your mind will stop listening the point. If your mind will listen, it will not be able to try to thoroughly observe the points. So rehearsing is also one of the major drawback of poor listening, major reason behind the poor listening. So if when you are listening, you need to listen with full care. So interruption, again, when you start interruption, then definitely the other person is not able to completely elaborate and you misunderstand the points. Okay, let's talk about the types. Abdullah was asking about the types. Here are the types of listening. Yes, what is active listening?
Listening to someone actively without any gap.
Yes. And what is passive listening?
Listening to someone who is speaking with gaps.
नो मिस. एक्टिव के
It's
Listening to
ध्यान से
someone?
ना
stopping in
सुनना.
between.
पैसिव के बस सुनी जाना, ध्यान ना देना, मतलब शो करना कि हम सुन रहे हैं. और एक्टिव में
Hmm.
सुनना भी और समझना भी.
Acha, keep it in your mind. Basically, here I have mentioned the types of listening. These are basically the modes of listening. ठीक है ना? These are the modes of listening. Basically, there are two modes. And after that, there is division among these two modes. When it active listening means listening with full concentration, listening and understanding. When it comes to passive listening, means you are just hearing. You are not observing those points. And here I already have given the example. When you are doing study, for instance, you are making an assignment. At the same time, you are also listening music. At that time, your concentration is towards the assignment, but you are enjoying while listening music. That is basically passive listening, because you are not continuously thinking about the music. Your concentration is towards your assignment. right? This is passive listening. And active listening, when you listen the lecture with full concentration, which rarely happens, right? So these two are basically the modes of listening, and rest of the all are the types of listening. So appreciative listening, is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We listen for the purpose of getting pleasure, for enjoyment, as just we do watch dramas, movies, we watch any talk shows. So empathetic listening, is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
मीन्स
And
ये
when you understand that,
एनसीएसटी का क्या
yes,
मतलब है? एंथिएटिक प्लेयर,
aesthetic pleasure.
इसका क्या मतलब है?
Aesthetic is basically the term which is used for beauty, means for getting happiness. You listen to certain beautiful things for getting happiness.
जी.
For instance, uh, when you watch any, you can say, comedy show, any comedian drama, at that time that basically you watch those type of dramas for the purpose of getting enjoyment, getting pleasure. So for the satisfaction of your feelings, your moods, right? So empathetic listening, what is empathetic listening?
एम्पैथेटिक, एम्पैथी से के मींस के जो
Yes,
अगला बोल रहा है उसे फील करना,
yes,
उसके जगह पर, मतलब उसकी जगह पे अपने आप को रख के सुनना और उसे फील करना.
Ma'am, understanding others according to the situation of other, like
yes,
what?
yes. It basically has been derived from the empathy. And while explaining the lecture in the recorded session, I gave you the example of a psychiatrist. When you go to a psychiatrist, the perfect and the professional psychiatrist is that who understands your feelings, right? Who is just listening to you actively doesn't mean that he is the good person or he is understanding your issues. He can understand your issue after, with empathetic listening, means he will try to listen, he will try to understand your feelings, that how are you feeling, and then definitely he will suggest you something. Okay, comprehensive listening, what is the confusion in comprehensive listening?
मीन्स वो पता ही नहीं था इसका आगे है क्या.
What mean by comprehension?
Ma'am, to change something,
Sorry?
to change something.
Comprehension. In the first semester, I taught you reading comprehension.
Yes, ma'am.
What mean by
मीन्स के
comprehension?
Ma'am, the
उसे
way we read.
नो मीन्स मतलब कि अगले की
Okay.
पूरी बात सही तरह सुनना और फिर अपनी जो हमें पॉइंट चाहिए वो देखना.
Basically, when we define comprehensive is basically from the comprehension, right?
जी.
So comprehension basically means understanding. In Urdu, you can simply say samajhna,
पूरी बात सुन के
getting the
समझना
point of other
जो
person.
हमें पॉइंट चाहिए,
Yes,
पूरी बात सुन के.
yes. Yes. So when we come to the comprehensive listening, you require comprehensive listening basically when you listen the teach lecture of the teacher. At the same time, for instance, you are going somewhere and you stop on the way and you ask from the other person the address of any place. The other person will start telling you the address. At that time, you will give full concentration to listen to that person because you want to understand the direction of a certain place, right? So at that time basically you are using comprehensive listening, understanding each and every point. It is basically related to the active listening. Active and passive are two modes, and these are basically certain types on the basis of the subject for which you are listening. Appreciative for getting pleasure, for enjoyment. Empathetic, basically listening actively but at the same time understanding, plus understanding the feeling of other person. When it comes to comprehensive, at that time you have no interest with the emotions, with the feelings. You have no interest with getting pleasure. Your interest is only to understand what the other person is saying. Clear?
Yes,
जी
ma'am.
मिस.
Well, critical listening and superficial listening, these are the 2 points, and after that we will wind up the session. Yes, what is critical listening?
I'm listening to something carefully.
Definitely active listening, it includes the active listening, but uh, for what purpose the person is listening?
मीन्स के सुनना होता है कोई नई चीज़ें जानने के लिए, उसे मतलब देखने के लिए कि ये क्या क्या रहा है, और अच्छी
Ma'am,
बात कह रहे
something
हैं, बुरी बात,
important.
Hmm.
समथिंग इम्पोर्टेंट, और हमारे लिए भी ये अच्छी है कि नहीं.
Yes. देखिए, critical listening basically involves active listening. Unless until you are not active, you cannot criticize other person. It is basically a listening in which you listen with full concentration. At the same time, you start evaluating the speech of other person. You start finding out the truth in what the other person is stating. For instance, when you go to a shop and you talk to shopkeeper and you want to buy anything, so the person, what the person will do, he will start convincing you that buy this cell phone or this laptop or this vehicle, whatever you want to bought. So the person will start convincing you. At that time you need the critical listening just to evaluate, just to judge that what is truth in the speech of the person. Because आपका focus कहाँ पे होता है, you try to critically evaluate कि how much there is truth in marketing. What happened in marketing, people add lot of things, lot of pompous words just to attract your attention, but at that time you need critical listening to understand that whether how much it is it include these facts and how much the person is just projecting. So at that time active listening, definitely you require active listening. You are not active, you cannot be analyze the point of view what the other person is saying. But this type of listening is basically called critical listening. And last is superficial listening. This is related to the passive listening. Rest of the all type of listening, appreciative requires active listening. Empathetic listening requires active listening. Comprehensive, you need to utilize active. Critical listening, again, it is also come under the category of active listening. But superficial listening is basically the passive listening when you just hear passively. Clear?
जी मिस.
Well, it was all about the interpersonal skills. You can say the interpersonal skills. What are interpersonal skills? How can you improve your interpersonal skills? And then finally, the listening skill, active listening. How can you improve the listening skills, and what are the poor habits which you need to overcome to improve your listening habits? In the next class, you will learn about resume writing, cover letter writing, interview strategies, which is also the part of your final project. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.
मिस
Allah Hafiz,
इंटरैक्टिव
ma'am.
लेक्चर्स ही ले लिया करें दोनों.